So this is the Mission TT latching, also known as the Mission TT-L, which is its model number, switch, which is designed to connect to an expression pedal port and provide a external instant access button. Now some MIDI controllers and processors have inputs for expression pedals, and some have also inputs for switches. That will typically be a momentary switch, but sometimes they're latching switches. But some, like this Voodoo Labs Ground Control Pro here, have two inputs for expression pedals, but they don't really have one dedicated to a switch. The Mission TT latching is a switch that is wired in such a way that it can use the expression pedal port and provide an external switch function, exactly as if there were a switch input on the back of the Ground Control Pro here. Now we take a look at the TT. It's a pretty simple device, 2" by 2" square aluminum box. There's a jack on one side and then the switch actuator on the top. We use a TRS stereo 1/4" jack to connect the box to the Ground Control Pro. So we're going to plug this cable in here, and then we're going to connect the other end to one of the two pedal inputs on the back of the Ground Control Pro. In this case we're going to use pedal input number 1. And that's pretty much all there is to do from the connection standpoint. So now we're going to configure the Ground Control Pro to work with the switch. Now here we've selected a patch that we're using with our 11 rack processor that we're using in this case. We're using an AC30 patch which goes to the 11 rack's default Irish Echo program. We're going to press and hold the edit button, which brings up the device menu, and then we're going to hit the bank down one time, and that shows us the pedal input number 1 and its current MIDI control value. In this case it's set to 64, which on the 11 rack is the tap tempo value. We can move between the different values with the plus and minus buttons on the Ground Control Pro. And two common values that we might use the switch for would be 64 in this case, which is tap tempo, and 69, which is the tuner. So let's leave it set for tuner for this time, and we'll press edit and then yes to save, and then that value is set for the switch with the Ground Control Pro to send that MIDI command to the 11 rack. So let's take a look at the 11 rack now and see how it's behaving. So now with the Mission TT connected to the Ground Control Pro and with the pedal input set up to send MIDI control 69, which is the tuner on off on the 11 rack, we're going to press the switch, and you see that it brings up the tuner on the 11 rack. And we're going to press the switch again, and then it bypasses the tuner. Now we can set up that switch MIDI CC value to be pretty much anything we want it to be that's supported on the 11 rack. Another common one we would do is tap tempo. So let's set it up for that and then give that a try. So now, using the procedure we used before, we've just changed the value for the pedal port that the switch is plugged into, so that instead of sending MIDI 69, which it was before, to enable and disable the tuner on the 11 rack, when you press the switch, the Ground Control Pro now sends MIDI 64, which is the tap tempo command for the 11 rack. So if we look at the tap tempo light this is flashing on the 11 rack to indicate the speed of our tempo. So we'll just dial in now by pressing the switch a slower tempo. And you can see that the tempo is now set on the 11 rack to that slower speed. Now we'll try doing something a little faster. And you can see the tap tempo light now flashing to match the speed that we tapped in on the switch. So that's it. That's how you set tap tempo on the 11 rack using the Mission TT via the Ground Control Pro. So that's pretty much it. That's the Mission TT, the Mission TT-L or Mission TT latching being used with the Voodoo Lab Ground Control Pro MIDI controller. And in this case, the 11 rack from Digi Design, although it can of course be just about any MIDI programmable or MIDI controllable processor, amplifier or effect. Common effects that we would use the TT with are those we just demonstrated, tap tempo and enabling and disabling the tuner. But the switch can really be used for anything, any combination of MIDI messages that you might want to send from the Ground Control Pro to your processor. So that's it. That's the Voodoo Lab Ground Control Pro with the Mission TT latching tap tempo switch.